Thank you so much for coming and joining me today to talk about your career as an accomplished pianist. Let's start at the very beginning. When did you start playing piano and what made you get into it?
So officially, I started when I was about 6 years old. I was in a school where all the cool kids decided to take piano lessons. So then I asked my parents, "Oh, can you please sign me up for piano lessons?" And that's how I started my official lessons. But I'd like to say that when I was around 2, I had begged my parents to play the piano. And they're not musicians and they didn't take me seriously, but I know that they bought me a little toy piano. And I want to say that I was influenced by Liberace at that time, or there was this country music show, a weekly music show called Hee Haw. And I remember seeing all these different instruments and country music, and I thought that was fun. So I think that inspired me asking my parents for an instrument at 2, but it never went beyond that. But at 6, when everyone was taking piano lessons, I wanted to fit in and I wanted to be cool as well. So that's when I started.
Wow. Yeah, so you wanted to do it, you're like your parents didn't force you, like it was all
Oh,
you.
no, it was all me. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know what I want to do when I'm older. So when did you realize that you wanted to pursue a career in music, specifically in piano?
That's a good question. I like to think that music chose me because I kind of fell into it. And as I said, my parents were not musicians. And soon after, I started winning competitions. And I actually didn't have a piano at home and I didn't even practice. And so I don't even know how I entered these competitions and won. And so it kind of progressed rather quickly. So that's when my parents said, maybe she has talent. Then they bought me a piano and I started to practice a little more, I guess, not regularly, but I did. I'd like to say that I had a wonderful teacher. She was actually a violinist, but she taught piano on the side at school. But she was really good at organizing competitions, concerts, and that was really wonderful. And she loved music and very spirited and energetic lady. And then once I started winning these competitions around the age of 10, I played with the Montreal Symphony Orchestra. And so that was like a big jump for me. And when I was young, I was kind of labeled a little prodigy. So I would do all these TV shows and, would go and dress up and they would do makeup on me. And, it's kind of, it influenced me when you're like 9, 8, 9 and doing these shows. I even shared a show with Celine Dion before she was like super famous, so I met these interesting people. So I thought, wow, this is great. I think I can do this. And when you walk on stage and there are 2, 3,000 people there sitting just there to listen to you, that makes an impression when you're so young, when you're 10, 11. And I just remember walking on stage, the bright lights, and you just feel that time stops. And I love that feeling to be on stage and to perform and to be able to share something with people. So that's when I thought, oh, maybe I could do this professionally and get paid even, wow, this is fun. And at that time, I didn't really practice. I hope Mila never sees this program, but I didn't practice. So and I thought, even better, it's easy. Um, but then when I was 13, I auditioned for the Curtis Institute of Music, which is in Philadelphia, which is actually I think it's the most difficult conservatory to get into because it's a full scholarship place. They only accept a few people every year. And when I was 13, I got accepted and I had to make the decision of do I stay at home in Canada, in Montreal, where I'm from, or move away to Philadelphia and pursue music. And it was, I guess, not a difficult decision because for me, I of course wanted to, but for my parents, it was like, you're only 13, you would be living alone, you would have to take care of yourself and practice the piano and also go to school at the same time. Um, but I was very responsible and they trusted me. So actually, when I was 13, I moved to Philadelphia by myself in an apartment. I don't think it was legal. um, but they'd found these people during the auditions that were willing to be my guarantors or my guardians. I never saw them. I saw them maybe once a year. Um, but they were nice. They were willing to sign for me. And so here I was in Philadelphia, inner city Philly. Uh, yeah. And that's how I started my musical journey, I guess. So that's when I say music chose me, and it kind of brought me there.
Wow, that's such an interesting story. Like you were living alone in thir at 13. And so you talked about like having to balance high school and practice. So how much time did you dedicate to practicing and performing in your childhood and adolescence? Like how did you
Um,
balance your studies and piano?
Yep, that's another good question. So in the mornings, I would go to high school. Let me backtrack a bit. So in Montreal, it was a difficult decision for my parents because they thought because I was doing well academically. I even skipped a few grades. So by the time I had moved to Philly, it was a big change for me because I was in a private school for girls only, and then suddenly there are boys. And then I had to go to school in English. I went to an all French school, a francophone school. So that was also a major difference. But, it came naturally to me, the academics. So I ended up skipping another grade in Philadelphia, and I started college courses, and I had enough credits to graduate quite early from high school. So that was not so difficult. It wasn't such a challenge. I would go in the mornings to high school and in the afternoons for college classes. Um, Practicing, as I said, I didn't do so much yet. So it wasn't so difficult to balance that right away. Um, Performances, that's what I kind of thrived to do. So that was, I really enjoyed that. So I didn't think of it as being something extra. But I'd like to say that I went to many concerts. I went to at least 4 concerts, 4 or 5 concerts every week, which was a wonderful experience. I would hear the Philadelphia Orchestra. I would hear everyone at Curtis. I went to orchestra rehearsals from all the great conductors that passed by Curtis. So I was very involved in that, and just immersed myself into the music world.
Wow, that's amazing. Um, so for students who are unsure about like whether they will be successful in a music career, what factors should they consider when deciding if they should fully commit to a career or not?
Well, it's how you define success as well. For some people, success is not just the financial security. For some people, it's having freedom to do what they want. It's difficult to say. I mean, for me, I felt like, I'm 13, I decided to go into music, so it didn't factor the fact that I would have a career or not. I mean, I just didn't think about it. I was just pursuing my dream, and I just continued that way. Of course, maybe if I were 18 and I decided to go to music college, I would think differently. Um, but for me, it was kind of decided, and I think about it, and it kind of fell into place. When you play concerts, of course, you get paid, and you continue your studies. And luckily, I got a full scholarship, and then I went on to other music schools, like for example, Juilliard, and in Europe. And in Europe, the education was free as well. So I didn't think about, this being a financial burden. Everything was kind of paid, and everything I earned from concerts was income, right? But it's hard to say, what makes you decide for financial security or a career in music.
What were your favorite parts about being able to study at Juilliard?
At Juilliard, for example, that was a huge school compared to Curtis. Curtis was very small and nestled, and you felt taken care of. At Juilliard, I felt the world was open to me. First of all, it's New York City, which is different. You have all the opportunities, and also the people that you meet, your fellow colleagues, instrumentalists. These are the people that are the movers and shakers, that you meet again later in life. So I think that's the big difference. When you have a great school, you're there with great people, and your paths cross throughout the years. You'll meet them again, and I think that's wonderful, having that base, and also the fact that there were actors, there were dancers. It was not just music, right? So I think that opened my eyes as well. That was the main difference of being in a huge school with great renown.
And like you kind of touched on this, but Do you think that there's a big difference in career opportunities for people with a degree from a specialized music school like Juilliard versus a larger school that also offers some musical tracks?
Yeah, I would say, as I mentioned, I think it's the core group of students. If you want to be very specialized in music, these are the people that are surrounding you. These are the people that you'll perform with, later in life. And there are many paths in music, even though they started as performers, soloists, they can venture into entrepreneurship, they can venture into becoming professors or arts administrators in business. So, but these are the people that you meet when you're young. And I think it's better to meet them when you're younger because you form a certain kind of rapport or trust, right? Coming from the school and you went through the classes together. So there's this camaraderie that you can kind of touch upon later in life if you need their help or if they need your help, for example. But, needless to say, for example, at Harvard, there are many programs that there's Harvard and NEC, which is the New England Conservatory, which has high level students as well. For example, the last winner of Van Cliburn for the piano, he goes to NEC. And, there are many great students that do the Harvard and NEC program. My husband, Alessio Bax, he teaches at NEC and he gets wonderful students that do this dual program. And the advantage of that is they do 4 years of Harvard and 1 year, and within 1 year extra, they get a master's degree from the New England Conservatory in music. So, I mean, these opportunities are available. I know with Juilliard, they have a program with Columbia or Barnard. They also have this kind of opportunity where you can get your bachelor's in 4 years and in the fifth year get a master's as well. And you graduated from two top schools, right? So that's also an option, and also, if you're, for example, a singer or a brass player, those instruments you develop later, right? A singer, you can't do it like when you're 8 or 9, you have to develop when you're older. And I know many singers, for example, that went to schools and later took on singing and have brilliant careers, but they went to regular schools, colleges. So, it depends. But if you start when you're very young, I think a more specialized conservatory is better, or musical camps. That's where I met a lot of my future colleagues in camps, musical summer festivals, and it's wonderful to come back together.
Wow. For someone who wants to pursue piano, what other paths are there other than becoming like a concert pianist? Is there a different training required for them, other courses they have to take, or?
Yeah, that's good because nowadays, when I was young, it was very much more specialized. If you're a pianist, you practice alone, you're in your little cubicle, your studio. But nowadays, there's more emphasis on the whole person. For example, you have to be very good at chamber music. You have to know how to market yourself. And also, I have many friends that started as soloists and they decided to go the business route where they founded music schools and then they would franchise it out. And so, they would be an administrator. Or I have another friend that started in piano and then, she got nervous performing and then she decided to get a music, an MBA, and she wanted to go to arts administration. And now she heads one of the top musical organizations. So there are a lot of choices. It doesn't have to always be the performing one, right? You could become a promoter, which is great, an arts administrator in one of the top symphony orchestras, for example, or halls like Carnegie or the Kennedy Center. There are many opportunities. It doesn't have to be centered on performance, or you could make your own group, a consortium of people, and that you can label as yourself. There are also managements. You can go into management, concert management, and artist management. So there are many, many different ways. And nowadays they offer all of these courses. When I was young, it was just performance theory and, very kind of clear cut. But nowadays they teach you how to kind of sell yourself, how to use social media, how to upload videos, your website, actually performing and commissioning composers. That's like very, very hot now. or championing, we're female, like women composers, so there are a lot more opportunities, I would say, as it's a big opportunity. It doesn't have to be so specialized anymore.
What advice would you give to aspiring young pianists who are hoping to achieve success in the field of classical music? For example, what should they focus on if they want to like go to a big school like Juilliard?
Okay. When they're young, they have to practice a lot and to hone the chops, the technical aspect of the side. I see many pianists that are very good at kind of promoting themselves, but they don't have much time practicing anymore, right? And they're good at selling themselves and they get many concerts, but then it catches up with them. You always have to maintain a certain type of dignity, a lot of discipline, and honing your craft and learning a lot of repertoire when you're young, because it becomes much more difficult when you're older, just to grasp everything, to memorize, just to understand everything, to develop a great sense of sound, and legato. All of this should be done when they're younger, um, when they're sponges and when it's easier. I think that's really important. And then when they're a bit older, if they really are serious, they should try to find a wonderful mentor. That's very important as well. That could guide you through this process, because it could be very overwhelming, to enter competitions, to audition for conductors. I mean, just you need some kind of a strong musician mentor that can help you through that process, as well. That's very important. And first and foremost, you have to love what you're doing, because it's not all that glamorous. Some people just see the part where you walk on stage in a nice dress and you have this adulation from the public, but there's a lot of tears and years of hard work and dedication and perseverance, because it's not always straightforward, and you have to learn to be flexible with everything. And yeah, but to find a good mentor, let's say you find a good mentor and this person doesn't teach at one of the main conservatories or universities or music school, that's okay too, just as long as this person believes in you and guides you well. It doesn't have to be defined by a posh school as well. It's where you get your development and where you feel like you can grow. And there's also timing. You have to be ready. When there's an opportunity, you also have to be ready. Some people kind of, lose track of that, but you have to be ready. That's what I mean. You have to always practice and be ready for any opportunity. You can be called and say, hey, can you come tomorrow? Someone canceled. Please come and play this recital. And that could, really spark interest and launch your career. So you have to be ready for everything and be flexible as well, and love what you're doing and be persistent.
Oh, this is the last question. Can you share a particularly challenging or transformative moment in your musical journey that influenced your development as a pianist?
Yes, I think when I was around 16, 17, as I admitted, I didn't really practice, and things came quite naturally for me. I think there comes a time where everyone has to really practice and buckle down. You can't live off of your talent. It can only bring you a certain amount in a certain way. And I think at that time, I decided to fully commit to this artistic life. And that's when I started to practice from 6 to 9 hours a day.
Wow.
Going from very sporadic practicing and being kind of easygoing about it, then I really put my foot down. I decided to enter a few competitions. These were, immediate goals, and I changed teachers. And so that was a very defining moment for me, when I decided to fully commit to practicing and develop my repertoire. That's when I practiced and learned most of my repertoire that I'm performing now. And also I had one teacher that was very famous. He was a very famous concert pianist, now deceased. But he was kind of like, oh, you're a girl, you're small, you have small hands. And then that kind of pushed me to play all the big works. I played all Liszt, and and I won the competition. And so just to show him, what are you talking about? And I have so much power. And and that became kind of my trademark. Oh, she's so small, but she's so powerful. And how does she get that sound? So, sometimes a bad situation can turn into a good situation, because that kind of pushed me to go beyond in repertoire wise, my scope of repertoire and sound and what people thought I could play. They wanted to pigeonhole me into just classical, oh, small, petite. And then that kind of pushed me to play a lot of bigger works. And then, and I also learned all of the Ligeti etudes, which are supposedly one of the most difficult piano etudes. And then I was the first one actually to record all of it. And that was also a teacher. He heard me play one of them. I happened to just memorize it, and I learned it in 2 weeks. And the teacher said, "Oh, wow, that's really impressive." And I didn't know that it was impressive what I did. And he goes, "Oh, you should learn all of them." So I did. So, I mean, just some little spark and idea could, bring upon a huge project, right? So just to be open to that. And even though someone tries to put you down, you can be strong and rise and prove them wrong. And I think it's a set of a mindset. Once you're very serious in any craft, you have to be willing to do the work. It takes a lot of dedication and a lot of time and sweat and support. I had wonderful parents. I have wonderful parents. So you need also a support team that could root on for you, because it's not easy.
Thank you so much. This was incredible to be talking to you.
Oh, thank you, Mira. This was lovely.
Uh, so, uh,